Welcome to our PowerPoint presentation. Please read this page carefully so that you can find the explanations and strategies that I'm going to use in this PowerPoint presentation. Term 2, Natural Sciences and Technology, Revision. Topic 5, we're going to look at solids, liquids and gases. Arrangements of particles in solids, liquids and gases, page 56, and I want you to look very carefully at that. Matter makes up all the materials that exist on Earth. All solids and liquids and gases are made up of matter. Now, the scientists have found out four main things about matter, and they are important facts. Are they too small to see? Have spaces between them? Always moving or vibrating, and particles move faster when we add heat to them. This is your first revision challenge, revision 1, and I want you to fill in your answers on this page. Topic 6, mixtures. Keywords, page 62. First one, mixtures. It's when two or more substances that are mixed together separate to break up a mixture into substances mixed. Physically, to use hands or tools to separate the mixture. Sieving, to use a tool with holes that allows pieces of a certain size to pass. Filtering, to separate the liquid and the substance by pouring it through a material like filter paper or mesh fabric. Hand sorting, to separate the mixture of solids by hand. Settling, to allow substances mixed with the liquid to settle at the bottom. Decanting, to carefully tilt the container and pour off the top layer of a mixture. Mixtures of solid substances. If we look at mixtures of solids and specifically at the following examples, first, the 10 cent and 50 cent coins can physically be separated by hand. The reason? Because you can see the 10 cent coins and you can see the 50 cent coins. So therefore it's important that you understand this and that all the other examples does not change because of their original properties that are still the same. So the dried beans, you can see them, and the peanuts, you can see that. So you can physically separate that. The same with the sweets. It can be color, it can be size, it can be anything. But the sugar and tea leaves and the sand and salt is a much bigger challenge, only because of their size. But this can also be overcome by physically separate them if you use a magnifying glass to see them better, and then you can still go and separate them by hand. The second one, if you look at mixtures of solids and liquid substances, and I've got a couple of examples for you here, and we can look specifically at sand and water. Then the sand is your solid and the water is your liquid substance. So it cannot be separated immediately by hand because they are all mixed. But if you give it a time and after a while, it can be separated by one of the following methods. If you wait for the sand to settle down, that's settling. You can also, with one of these examples, use a sieve to sieve. You can either filter it or you can decant it because the original properties of the substances are still the same. Mixtures of liquids is going to be a challenge. The moment you mix a cordial with water, it mixes totally and you cannot see the two original substances anymore. It becomes one, like your Oros drink. You need more scientific apparatus to separate these substances, and in grade 6 we're not going to discuss that yet. But if we look at the oil and water, that's much easier because the oil will float at the top and then we can separate that with a process called decanting. Now that we have done mixtures, we can look at this table to summarize the separating of mixtures. The first one, example of dried beans and peanuts. Because it's two solids, we can use our hand and use the method of sorting. Number 2, if you look at the flour and bran, we use a sieve to separate the two solids. Important here is the grain size. Must be different. The flour will fall through and the bran will, with a bigger grain, will remain behind. Then number 3, the same with the tea and tea leaves. We also use a sieve. The tea will go through and the leaves will remain behind. Coffee, granules and coffee. Coffee will go through and the granules will remain in the filter paper. If you look at the sand and water, the heavier sand will settle to the bottom or settle at the bottom. And number 6, now that the sand has settled at the bottom, you can separate it by decanting. Separate the water from the sand. Revision 2. Revision 3. These are your memos to mark your revision exercises.